exercise something painting. Let me go and show you. So I want you to open the exercise 3 painting. And you'll see that I have an example and something that you start from. And I'm going to zoom onto my object. And I'm going to show you what I did in the layers. You have 2 layers. One is the drawing layers. There's actually what you did, the last part that you did. But what I want you to draw instead is the guides. Just because the guides are a little bit more complicated, they have the spots, and they're a little bit more interesting. That has the whiskers and stuff. So what I want you to do in the layers is I want you to turn off the drawing layer. Turn it off. And select the guides as your current layer. Okay? So this one is just to show you where we left it. When you drew your piece, what happened. But I'm kind of actually giving you a more interesting and complicated version to color. So if you now selected this object with the Move tool or the Select tool, I'm going to hit V and go in here, is a whole big one group, right? Do you guys see that? So if I ungroup it, if I do Command-Shift-G, that ungroups it. In fact, let me undo and show you that in the layers, if I open this up, it says group right here, right? Do you see that group? If I do Command-Shift-G, now that group is gone. You see that it doesn't say the word group anymore? But now, if I deselect it, if I say, oh, I want to color one ear, let me go and select the ear, and you color it, then you have all these spots that you have to select individually, one by one, to color it. So that's not a good thing. What I'm trying to say here is I want to ungroup it, and then deselect everything except the spots that are going to be the only one left selected, and color all the spots right there. Because if I deselect everything, if I ungroup and then I deselect, I go and select something else, all those spots are going to be selected individually. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to do Apple Z and do again the ungroup. Right? So I'm going to do Apple Shift G. So now that it's ungrouped, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Shift key and I'm going to click everything except the spot. Remember, the Shift key deselect as well as adds to the selection or removes from the selection. So I'm going to remove from the selection the eyes, the ears, this line of the nose. Yes. I'm holding the Shift key right now. You hold the Shift key and you click on the object that you don't want in the selection. Because the Shift key will learn that can add to the selection but can also take off from a selection. That's the power of the Shift key. So I'm basically clicking on every object except for the spots. And that removes, deselect from the selection, removes from the selection, deselects. So now I have only the spots left. Paige, what do you need? I'm right here. No, it doesn't take too long. Tell me, what do you need? I'll be happy to help you. What you need to do is, when you do Apple Shift G, means you ungrouped it. Then you hold the Shift key and click on the ears, click on the eyes, click on every path except for the spots. Once you have just the spots selected right here, you can go in the stroke and the fill. And for example, if you want them to be black, you can say I want black fill and I want black stroke. And now I got all my spots selected. Another thing you might want to do is you might decide you don't want the stroke. In that case, you take this, you put the slash through it. So now all my spots are selected in one shot instead of, if you had deselected everything and then have to go in one by one and select the spots. Does it make sense? Does anybody wants me to redo it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let me stop this recording, or actually, we can keep the recording. Big deal. Okay, so I'm going to actually undo everything I've done by doing Apple Z, Apple Z, Apple Z, right? So I have my object right now, and as you can see in the layers, it's still a group, right? Do you see in the layers, the sub-layer says group? I have it all selected because with a black arrow, when you select a group, it will select every path in the group. Now I'm going to do Command-Shift-G, and that releases the group. So I don't have a group anymore. So now I need to deselect all the paths that are now included in the selection except for the spots. How do I remove from a selected object certain paths. I hold the shift key, and I hold the shift key, and I click on the ear, on the other ear, on the outer perimeter, on this eye, on the other eye, on the nose, on the whiskers, and basically clicking on all these objects that I don't want to color, because the very first thing I'm going to color is actually the spots. That is what I'm trying to keep all together, selected all at once, instead of, deselecting. I want to deselect only the other paths and leave the spots as one big piece. There it is. Now I have just the spots. And it's just up to me to go in and say I want them to be black as a fill. And for example, I don't want any stroke. There it is. So is that clear, guys, what I did?
What was the shortcut for ungrouping again?
Apple Shift G. Apple G groups, Apple Shift G ungroups. So now, how do I create, my eyes? If you go in the swatches, this palette in Illustrator called swatches that is located on this side of the screen generally. If you don't see it, go under window swatches. It's right here somewhere, right here. I already created for you these gradients that allows you to color. And for now, I want you to use them just to color. Obviously, I will show you how to create your own custom gradients. So what you do is, let's say you want your eyes to be green. You selected the eyes by clicking on the first one, holding the shift key, and adding to the selection, because that shift key adds to the selection if something is not selected, or remove from the selection if something is already selected. So, and then you click on the green, and it will originally color the stroke, right? So what you want to do is click on here and invert it, and now you'll see that your eyes are green. So now the fill is that gradient. If you wanted to give it a stroke, you can always click on here and say, I want a black stroke, for example. Then you can select the ears, these two ears right here, and you say, for example, I want the darker color right there. Same story. You kind of invert them. Then you select the entire tiger head, and you originally it colors the stroke, and you want actually the fill to be colored. So you do the same exact thing here, for example. So I'm basically clicking and assigning the color by clicking on these swatches. This one, for example, I actually want it to be black. So I'm going to just click on black, and I want no stroke. I'm going to select the whiskers, holding the shift key, and I'm going to make them black. And then you obviously want to select whatever is gray and make it black. And I'm going to show you in the next demo how to create these custom gradients. That is a little bit tricky, but not too bad. You could obviously add a stroke if you wanted to. In fact, if I click right here, it'll do it for me right quick. So you could add a stroke around here. Or you could say, these one, I want the stroke to be thinner. You go in the stroke palette, and you say, I want it to be only 1 point instead of 1.7. And as you can see, it will be thinner. So you can do whatever you want. I just prepared the colors for you right here. But I'll show you in a minute how you actually create your own custom colors.